Someone actually had said earlier, and I don't remember the name. My apologies. Xbox 360 era is back. I think they're
Yeah,
onto something here. I
feeling like it.
really think they're on. You know what? Before we move on, let's and again, please throw it back in the chat who said that, because I saw it and I don't remember because I'm an old man. Let me get your hot take on that, because that's what it felt like for me. That was the last time I was like invested in what I did in Call of Duty. It's been a long time, folks. I've played Call of Duty. I've just never been invested. The last time I was vested into it was during the 360 era, and that was the best time for Call of Duty on
Mhm.
Xbox. On this beta alone, Steel, I kind of got that feeling.
I got some of that, but I think for me is definitely going to be a little bit of a different perspective for sure, or maybe a lot of a different perspective. Mainly because I've always been the multiplayer gamer. I've been multiplayer gaming for since 2000, right? As
Okay.
just as an example, so it's always felt like the 360 era to me. Every multiplayer game that comes out, that's why I'm so adamant about games even just releasing tacked on multiplayer if they could, or some form of PvP, or when PvP gets taken away out of games that I like. For an example, Last of Us, a shot to that. Um, I have a really deep rooted heart for multiplayer gaming, and but where I can agree with you on that is I think more so the reason why it's feeling like the 360 era is because there are people like yourself, Boom. Again, to my point from earlier, that who have not played in a while, they jumped into Call of Duty, like you were mentioning in the background, Boom. Like, man, this game feels fast, or you said it live as well. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, to be honest, Boom, it's been fast like this for a while. You know what I mean? Like, but it does feel a little bit faster because of the Omni movement. And again,
Yeah.
something so small to make such a big impact. But again, I also think that it's some of the uniqueness of, as well, that the game is bringing. It's seemingly bringing the community together as well. Now, that Call of Duty has tended to do this on a year by year basis, for better or for worse. Whether people love it or hate it, it always brings everybody out. People got either good things to say about it, or they got bad things to say about it. And Call of Duty will forever have those kind of things. But I do think that Black Ops 6 is probably going to be the first time in a while where we're going to end up getting a lot of consistent people, especially more of the casual crowd, as they get used to it, who are really getting into it, where they're putting up clips like, oh man, I never made a clip before, but I got this sick clip in Call of Duty, and I jumped through this door, and I got it, and I capped a couple fools, man, and I really just feel good about the gameplay experience that I'm have. And I think that's what made the 360 generation special. Again, there was nothing like Gears of War on the that was out there at the time, right? You had some similarities. I know people talk about Uncharted, but again, the reason I will always be a Gears stan in many ways is because there is nothing like it, right? And then again, you speak to it. Xbox had the marketing right for Call of Duty during that time too, right? So it's like it is, to Fuzzy's point that he was making her earlier, it is like Call of Duty coming back home. This is Xbox was known as the shooter box. Xbox was known as the multiplayer box. Xbox was known for community. And again, these are the things that made me fall in love with the Xbox ecosystem. And again, while I will always and probably forever be a proponent of it, as long as they show me that they're willing to support it, whether it's exclusives, whether it's this, whether it's that, I want to see what you put into the ecosystem that's going to continue to get people excited,
Yeah.
garner that interest. And this is a good example of that. And I really hope, go back to your 360 element, that was also back when we weren't getting a Call of Duty every year,
Yep.
right? So it's like, I hope that this is an example to not to Xbox and Activision that, hey, that next Call of Duty that you're thinking about putting out next year, nah, we were hearing some rumors that it was having some issues. Nah, go ahead and delay it a couple years, or at least a year, and see where people start falling in at. Because one of the most successful things that I really and passionately feel that they did, moving from Modern Warfare 2 into 3, is bringing that progression. I think that showed people that, hey, maybe you need to give people a couple years, a few years with this title, so they can get their full on they can get all of it out, because as much as waiting 5 or 6 years for a Call of Duty, I think that would be way too long. Just like I think waiting that type of time for a Halo is way too long.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Just the same, but just in that opposite end of the spectrum, I think waiting a year is way too soon, because in the multiplayer space, you're not giving these titles time to really breathe. Call of Duty does not need to be a sports franchise, right? Like, it's not an EA game, and I think even EA would make a ton more money if they stopped doing the way that they did and just offered roster updates for a certain fee or whatever the case. And because we see how things are going, so I definitely get what you're speaking to, and I do feel a bit of that is coming back out and leaking back into the gaming community, and that's really dope to see. So.
It absolutely is. Real quick, shout out to Adidas 20. He's the one that said that was me. The 360 era is back. That's what it feels like to me. Shout out to Ninja Squirrel with the nastiness. He says Boom spending more time on his back than a hooker, referring to Black Ops 6 game. The game's like, whoa, pause right there, brother. No Diddy. Shout out to you, Ninja Squirrel. Thanks so much, brother. Quickly, Fuzzy, let's talk about it, because I think what in those 3 words, Xbox 360 era is back, does really ring the bell for me as someone who played Call of Duty, haven't played in years, played this, cannot wait to get into it. I've already forecasted that when the game releases in Game Pass at the end of October, I'm going into multiplayer first. Like, I've never done that before, except back in the 360 days. And I kind of feel that particular statement by Adidas 20, it just rings the bell super hard. Pause. Let's talk about it.
Well, we see why Jim Ryan went flying here and there and everywhere to kind of prevent this. So it goes to show why they were as concerned, even though people don't want to admit that PlayStation was a bit scared or afraid or whatever you want to call it. This is the exact reason why, because if the momentum keeps on swinging towards Xbox's favor as far as this game, not just the revenue that they'll be earning from the game, but the fact that this being in Game Pass, if more and more people go that route and just do like the Vault upgrade and things like that, that's cutting off Sony's potential margins that they would have gotten by just even getting the 30% of the sale on their platform. So it's not there just yet, but that feeling is there, and that's enough to start having the casuals or friends in a group say, well, I'm going to pick it up on Game Pass because I could just spend the $30 and get it, and then put the $70 to another game that I'm looking forward to, like maybe Indiana Jones or what do you call them, Assassin's Creed or something like that. So I think this is going to be not necessarily the tipping point, but this will definitely have a lot of people looking at their PlayStation possibly and being like, you know what, I'll still get this game over here, but I can use my PC, or I can pick up a Series S, and I saw that there was a bundle, and then just go that route and then do the upgrades and save themselves some money, because they'll probably play it enough where they'll get their money's worth out of a subscription and the upgrade for the amount that they play it, and then they might stumble across a couple other games in Game Pass, and then that'll be the hook that Xbox and Microsoft are looking for, right? Like one of the indie games or things like that draws people in, and it's like, you know what, I would have never bought this game, normally, or it wouldn't have been on the radar, and that gets them to stay. So yeah, this definitely has the vibe of the 360 era, but I think it's even bigger or more so by the time this actually does the full launch. We get into the holiday sales, and then people start talking about, hey, while you're at it with Game Pass, there's other stuff there too. So yeah, we saw what Jim Ryan was afraid of, and now it's coming to fruition.